So, good morning. My name is Angela, and I'm with AARP Arizona, and I am joined today by Nicole Thomas, and she is with Pima Council on Aging, Dementia Capable Southern Arizona. And I will just go ahead and hand it over to you. I'm going to take myself off video too. So,
Okay, that's fine. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. I am Nicole Thomas. I'm the Community Education Specialist with Dementia Capable Southern Arizona at Pima Council on Aging in Tucson. This presentation is in collaboration with Alzheimer's Los Angeles. It will be 60 minutes. There's no breaks, but built in, but obviously, you can take take breaks as needed. Um, the first thing I'm going to start with, I am going to put in the chat. If you could take a couple minutes, please, and just do a brief pre-survey, and then you'll basically get the same questions at the end to see what what you've learned, if it's been helpful. And you can click on the link in the chat, or you can scan the code with your phone, whichever is easier. And I'll give you a couple more minutes for the pre-survey.
and Nicole, I just let somebody else in too. So,
Okay, I'll put the link in the chat again. There's just a brief pre-survey. If you could click the link in the chat, or you can scan the code with your phone, whichever you prefer. And then I'll get started in about 2 more minutes. All right. If you're still working on that, that's fine. I'm going to move on to the next slide. The first thing that we're getting started with is just taking a deep breath. We're going to start with a mindful breathing exercise to just kind of help us focus on the here and now. And I'm going to show you a breathing technique on the next slide that I like, that's helpful in kind of day to day. If you like it, it's maybe something that you can use in the future. It's called box breathing. And basically, it's you can kind of picture a box as you're doing it. You're going to inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold that for 4 seconds, and you can just kind of keep going around and around. Some people like to tap to try and, keep track, or you can just count in your head, and it's something that no one needs to know that you're doing. You can close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open. We'll do a couple times around just to kind of practice. So we're gonna inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, inhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. That's a that's one that I like because it's fairly simple to remember. There's no varying numbers. You can just kind of keep counting to four and going around. And if you notice your attention is sometimes going to start drifting off, you're getting caught up thinking of other things, that's okay. Just kind of note it and then try to bring your attention back to the breathing. If you're trying to do this to kind of recenter, focus, usually 6 to 10 cycles is, the most benefit. But again, this is something pretty easy. You can do anywhere. No one needs to know that you're even doing it. So if you find that helpful, that's something you can take with you. What we're going to be talking about today, we're going to look at the changes in behavior that you might be seeing with someone who has Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, trying to understand what that behavior might mean, and we'll talk about ways to address the behavior. And one of the biggest things is a lot of this goes back to adjusting our own reactions to the behavior, how we are handling, how we are responding. To get started, what is dementia? This may not be new information to you, the next couple of slides, but just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Dementia is not one single term. It's kind of an umbrella term for a lot of different diseases and conditions that are characterized by a decline in memory, language, problem solving, other thinking skills that affect a person's ability to perform everyday activities. Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia. That's the one most people have heard of. And a lot of times dementia and Alzheimer's are used interchangeably. Sometimes that's correct, sometimes it's not. That is the most common type of dementia, though. So a lot of what we're talking about today will be focusing on Alzheimer's because that is the most common one.
What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a progressive brain disease.
Before I keep going, can someone let me know if you can hear that okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That slowly destroys memory and thinking skills, and eventually the ability to even carry out everyday tasks. An estimated 6.7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's dementia today. Although treatment can help manage symptoms, and for some people, potentially slow it down, there is no cure. But every day, researchers are working hard to develop treatments that will do more than what's available today. Alzheimer's disease develops gradually, and its onset may not be obvious at first. But the damage to the brain begins years before symptoms occur. Let's explore what happens in the brain of a person with Alzheimer's. Two abnormal protein fragments, called beta amyloid and tau, began accumulating in the brain, which damage and eventually kill brain cells. These proteins are commonly referred to as plaques and tangles. They start here in the hippocampus, the part of the brain where memories are first formed. As the disease progresses, the plaques and tangles slowly destroy the hippocampus, and it becomes harder for a person with Alzheimer's to form new memories. Simple recollections from a few hours or days ago are just not there. Over time, more plaques and tangles spread into different regions of the brain, killing cells and compromising cognitive and physical abilities. The damage caused by the spreading of the disease results in different symptoms. We use these symptoms to define the different stages of the disease. Eventually, the damage spreads here to this region of the brain, the temporal lobe, where language is processed. When that happens, it gets harder to find the right words or follow a conversation. Next, as the disease progresses, it affects the front of the brain where logical thinking takes place, making it difficult to plan, problem solve, and make decisions. Slowly, it moves to the part of the brain where emotions are formed. When this happens, the person with Alzheimer's gradually loses control over their moods and feelings, and their personality can change. In the later stages, the disease moves on to the areas of the brain that make sense of the world around us, including what we see, hear, and smell. In this stage, Alzheimer's can affect a person's senses and can even cause hallucinations. Eventually, the plaques and tangles cause significant damage throughout the brain as they spread and erase a person's oldest and most precious memories. Finally, the disease impacts a person's balance and coordination. And in the very last stage, it destroys the part of the brain that regulates the lungs and breathing. And then, eventually, it also affects the heart's ability to function. The progression from mild forgetting to death is slow and takes place over time, an average of about 8 to 10 years. Although there's currently no cure for Alzheimer's, there is reason to hope. There are many promising developments on the horizon as breakthrough drugs and treatments are tested and become available. Meanwhile, information, programs, services, and resources are available for families, caregivers, and people living with Alzheimer's. Contact Alzheimer's.
All right. So as you could kind of see in that video, it does progress. Alzheimer's is a progressive disease. The progression is not going to be quite as cut and dry as the video. You know, one section is affected completely, and then the next section. But it will kind of affect all of the brain at some point. But it's going to be a little different for everyone as far as which areas are being most heavily affected. So it's going to vary from person to person as far as what symptoms you're seeing, the severity of the symptoms. Because the hippocampus that they mentioned is heavily impacted, it makes it really hard to create new memories. So those new memories, the recent information is going to be much more heavily affected early on than those long-term memories. So that's why someone might ask the same question over and over again because they've forgotten recently that they asked it, and they might be able to tell you clear as day what happened years and years ago, but they can't tell you what happened a few hours ago. The brain changes can also impact emotions and feelings. So you might see a little bit more easily frustrated, more agitated. Some common signs here, some common behaviors, repeating the same questions, confusion, getting lost, worrying, trouble sleeping, distrust sometimes. There are a lot of different symptoms that can be caused, and we'll look at a few of them today. But one of the biggest things that we're looking at today is that behavior often has a meaning. The behavior as communication is being impacted, because they can't necessarily articulate what they're feeling, what they're thinking, a lot of the time behavior becomes a means of communicating something. So trying to figure out what is the person trying to tell us, what is the meaning of the behavior for that person. They may have a difficult time, expressing what they need, what they want, what they're feeling. We're having a difficult time understanding them. They might be having a difficult time understanding us, and that confusion, that discomfort, the difficulty with communication can exacerbate or result in some of those behavior changes. So we're going to spend a lot of time kind of looking at behavior as a form of communication and trying to figure out the meaning. Are they sad, or are they angry, they're afraid, are they physically uncomfortable, are they in pain, is there an illness going on, frustrated, agitated, are they just bored, and they have a little bit of excess energy and it's coming out in different ways. A lot of times there are behaviors that we think of as being, problematic behaviors. They're being aggressive, they're being uncooperative. And sometimes, again, there's a meaning behind it, and it's not specifically to be difficult. For example, someone with Alzheimer's, maybe I'm telling my mom, I'm telling my grandma, we need to get dressed, but she doesn't want to get out of her pajamas and put on the clothes that I've laid here for her. Um, and I might think, oh, she's, refusing to do this. She's being difficult. She's being aggressive. I keep pushing. Maybe eventually she's, grabs that broom and is like, leave me alone. I don't want to change, I don't want to change out of my clothes. Get away from me. And I'm thinking of that as maybe aggression. A lot of times it's resulting because of an inability to communicate some other underlying reason verbally. A lot of the times the behaviors will the reasons for the behaviors might fall into four main areas: emotional needs, physical needs, health problems, or problems doing a task. So some, possible causes in this scenario, just kind of brainstorming, because people with Alzheimer's can lose time, can lose track of time, can have problems with that short-term memory, and maybe they're losing a few hours. Maybe it's 10 a.m. and we need to get ready for a doctor's appointment, so there's a reason that I want her to get dressed, but I know that it's 10 a.m., but she may not know that it's 10 a.m. and she thinks it's evening. So it wouldn't make sense to her to get dressed right now. Why would I need to get dressed if if I think that it's 10 p.m. And it's almost bedtime. I don't want to put clothes on. That doesn't make sense. If I don't know, if I don't remember that we have that doctor's appointment today, I don't understand why I need to get dressed. I don't see a reason to get dressed. Maybe I'm warm. I don't want to wear a sweater. I don't want to wear jeans and sweater because I'm a little bit warm, and this little muumuu that I'm wearing is a lot more comfortable, a lot more breathable. Maybe the fabric of this particular sweater is itchy, or this one is a turtleneck. I don't want this turtleneck. I hate how it feels on me. I feel like I'm suffocating. Maybe there's a physical reason to this particular outfit that I just don't want to wear. This is just more comfortable. Most of us are more comfortable if we had the choice between the little, nightgown and clothes. A lot of the times the nightgown is just more comfortable. I'm still sleepy. Maybe I want to be ready for bed because I'm still sleepy. It could be sometimes physical issues with actually getting dressed. Maybe my shoulder is hurting. So if, having to lift my arms to put the sweater on would be painful. I don't want to do that. I maybe have trouble with the zipper and the button on the jeans, so I don't want to put those on. I don't remember how to tie the shoes, so I don't want to put those on. Lots of reasons that it could be a resistance to getting dressed, and it's not necessarily the aggression and that we're seeing. There could be an underlying reason. Behaviors in general are not purposely done to annoy you um, due to poor listening skills. Oh my gosh, I've told her 20 times to get dressed and she just refuses, she's not listening. I told her we needed to get ready for this. Um, Usually they're not done on purpose, vindictively, kind of trying to again think of those as a form of communication and not taking it personal if there's a resistance to doing something. One thing I want to note is if there are sudden changes in behavior, obviously the last couple, if you're seeing, fevers, seizures, that's going to be a little bit easier to recognize that there might be something physical and illness going on. But if there are sudden changes in behavior, major changes in memory, mood, a lot more confused all of a sudden, rapid increase in anger, hitting, yelling, those type of things. Suddenly they're wetting the bed or not getting to the bathroom on time. If there is a sudden change in some of these symptoms or behaviors, talk to the doctor. The video kind of mentioned that the progression tends to be fairly slow. This is happening over several years. Sometimes if you're seeing really rapid onset of a symptom or a behavior, it might be because of an actual illness, result of an illness versus the dementia, the Alzheimer's itself. So if you're seeing a sudden change in behavior, it's worth talking to the doctor to make sure that that's not an actual symptom of an illness. All right, now we're going to get into the idea three-step approach. And a couple of these, I'll go through and we'll have a couple scenarios. And if you're comfortable, I pre-filled in some notes if you're not, but if you're comfortable, there are a couple videos in here, and I'll ask you if you have suggestions. You can unmute or you can put them in the chat. So we're going to look at the idea strategy, and it's 3 steps, trying to remember how to respond when a behavior occurs and try to change future behaviors. So we'll go through each step. The first step is ID. I identify the behavior. Can you describe the behavior? We want to be as specific as possible. Details of the situations. We're not yet looking for an immediate response, a solution. We're just kind of trying to define what is actually going on, being as objective as possible. Maybe look at the situation from different angles. If there's not one specific word that can define the behavior, just kind of describing details of the situation. Dad keeps trying to leave the house. Mom is asking the same question over and over again. Grandpa is getting upset for no apparent reason. What is the behavior specifically? Do other people see it the same way? Or are other people noticing the same thing if there are other people involved? Is the behavior bothersome? Not all behavioral changes are problematic. Not necessarily, difficult behaviors. Usually when we're talking about, common behaviors with Alzheimer's, common behavior with dementia, a lot of the focus tends to be on negative behaviors, things that we see as being negative, problematic. Sometimes there will be behavior changes, or they're saying or doing things different that really aren't problematic and don't necessarily need to be solved. It's just kind of something that maybe they're telling jokes more often than they used to. They're laughing more often. They're more outgoing. They used to be shy and now they're, a little bit more social. Not always things that are problematic or bothersome that need to be solved at all. The second step is the E, and it's exploring why the behavior might be occurring, kind of trying to brainstorm possible causes of the behavior. what might the meaning of this behavior be to the person? What might they be trying to communicate? We're kind of putting on a detective hat and looking for possible answers of what they're trying to communicate. If the person keeps wandering and they keep saying they need to go home, what does the concept of home mean to that person? Maybe because they're losing a lot of time at this point and they think that it's, 1975 right now. So they think that their home is somewhere else and they're trying to get to that home in 1975. Are they referring to, are they looking for a certain person that maybe isn't around, so it's causing some confusion? So we're looking for some possible exploring possible causes of the behavior here. Um, it's useful to look at surroundings, assess, some basic things. Is it maybe just sensory input? Is it physical discomfort? Maybe it's just too hot. Maybe it's too cold. Is it too loud? Is there too much movement? Too much noise going on? Too crowded, really cluttered? Is this a new, unfamiliar place? Is it only happening in certain places? Too dark, too bright? Lots of different things, kind of basic, looking at the situation, looking at the surroundings to see if there are any patterns that you can notice, any quick fixes that there might be. This stage can also include maybe calling a helpline, and I'll give some resources with follow-up if you're interested. But the Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 hotline that is staffed by master clinicians, and a lot of times that's something that I recommend to caregivers who are having difficulty identifying, what does this behavior mean? How should I respond? And sometimes this might be just kind of a research step where we're trying to figure out on our own. We can kind of brainstorm things. We might also bring other people in at this stage to brainstorm what might be causing this. Step 3 is the A, adjust. Um, we are we are the ones who need to adjust. We are going to try and adjust our reaction to the behavior. Um, we are not, we can't expect the person with Alzheimer's to be the one to adjust. We need to kind of change our frame of mind that we are going to be the ones that need to adjust. Um, we can't expect them to change. We're going to be the ones that need to change in this situation. Brainstorming some solutions in this phase, influencing the behavior if we can, adjusting the environment kind of based on what we brainstormed in the E step here. Treating the person with, dignity and respect. Is this, what you're saying, what you're doing, is this how you would want someone to respond to you? Sometimes our responses, because we're tired, we're cranky, we're exhausted, we're overwhelmed, we don't know what to do, we're frustrated. Sometimes our responses can kind of amplify agitation, put us in a confrontational situation sometimes. And we'll talk a little bit about what to do, if you're overwhelmed, but just kind of keeping in mind. And sometimes it's easier said than done because it it is a lot. It is a lot to caregive. It can take a toll on us. But trying to keep in mind, is this the way that we would want to be spoken to? Is this how we would want someone treating us? And kind of keeping that golden rule in mind. The next slide, we're going to give the first example, a little video example here of hallucinations that can happen, and then we'll kind of brainstorm things that might be going on here.
My mother's been waking up in the middle of the night and seeing things in her room that aren't actually there. We're both exhausted during the day because we're not getting enough sleep at night. Good night, Mom.
Honey, help me.
What's wrong, Mom?
There's an evil man in the room.
Mom, please. There's nobody here. No one's here. Go back to bed. Come on. Look, there's nobody here. All right? Go back to bed. You've got a big day tomorrow. Come on. Good night, Mom.
All right. So if you're comfortable, if you would put, in the chat, or you can unmute, we're going to start with the first step of IDing the behavior. What is happening specifically? When is this happening? Where is it happening? Who is it happening with? What is the actual behavior? What's happening here? And I'll give you a minute if you want to unmute, if you want to put some things in the chat. Yeah, the shadow is scaring her. I'm going to go on to the next slide. I have some pre-filled in. A lot of times when I do this presentation, it's a little bit longer presentation, and we have a little bit more time to kind of brainstorm things. So I'll go through what I have, and I kind of broke this down into the three steps here. Identifying the behavior. Chris mentioned, yeah, it's the shadow is scaring her. And in this video, we have the benefit too of seeing, clearly the camera is zooming in, that this looks like, this shadow looks like a person. In real life, we don't necessarily have that benefit, that we're going to know immediately what is going on. So we're going to kind of ID that, that behavior, identify that behavior, what's happening, be as specific, as objective as possible, when, where. The mom's running out of the room, says there's an evil man in the room. Um, as far as we know from this video, it's only happening, at night, bedtime. As far as we know from the video, happening at home with the daughter. Some possible causes. Chris mentioned, yeah, the shadow is scaring her. The shadow from that coat hanger kind of looked like a person there. The mom is scared. Fearful, might need might need to be comforted, reassured. Mom might be seeing things or hearing things that are misinterpreted by the brain, and that's kind of what Chris mentioned here is with the brain changes that are happening with Alzheimer's, with dementia, even what they are seeing or hearing can be kind of misinterpreted as something else. So if she's seeing, the shadow of the coat hanger, her brain might be misinterpreting that as a person. If she hears something that's, a branch is scraping on the window, her brain might reinforce that with, this is, oh my gosh, this is the person, whispering, or this is the person talking, this is the person dragging a knife on the wall. What is being seen and what is being heard isn't necessarily being correctly interpreted, correctly processed by the brain. So sometimes it can reinforce something that I'm already scared of. We could research some similar cases, might be sundowning if it's only happening in the evening. A lot of times, this could be a symptom of sundowning. Adjustment. We again already have the benefit of kind of figuring out it's the shadow from this thing. So what can be done, options for responses, some resources, how and what can we change? We might be, calling that helpline. Therapeutic fibbing, if you haven't heard this, is kind of you're lying to the person, but you're not lying to trick them or manipulate them. You're lying to kind of join their reality. We know that it's something that's not true, but their reality is just as real to them as our reality is. So those misinterpretations of things or confusion with time, place, what they believe is happening, where they believe they are, when they believe they are, is just as true to them as what is true to us in our reality. So what we're kind of doing is joining that reality. So we know that she is seeing this shadow. She's interpreting that as an evil man that's in the room. We can kind of join that reality. Oh my gosh, yes, this evil man, let me, beat him up and drag him out of the room. Let me call the police and, let me drag him outside, and the police came and picked him up. We're kind of joining that reality to reassure, listen, listen to the mom, reassure her that she's safe. We don't want to just, no, you're imagining it. Come on, no, it's nothing. The feelings are still very real. That fear is very real. Move those objects. Um, we know that it's that coat hanger in this case, so maybe we're moving that. Maybe we're moving or adjusting light. If it's a really dimly lit area, maybe we're putting some night lights in so it's not quite as difficult to determine what's happening. If the light is hitting it from a certain angle, we might move the light so it's not, casting that shadow. In another presentation that I did, someone said, maybe it's the crickets that were going in the background. So sometimes noises can cause agitation. So if that were the case, maybe trying a white noise machine or some calming music, offering comforting objects, maybe a favorite blanket, a stuffed animal to hold on to, things that are kind of comforting, reassuring. And now we'll look at the suggested response.
A person with dementia may experience hallucinations when the disease affects the regions of the brain that are responsible for interpreting sights and sounds. Hallucinations commonly involve seeing or hearing things that aren't there. They can transform ordinary, everyday experiences into frightening episodes. A good approach to reducing hallucinations is to identify and eliminate the objects or things that trigger them.
Honey, help me.
What's wrong, Mom?
There's an evil man in the room.
Oh, really? Let me take care of it. It's okay. Oh, I see. Okay, come on. Come on, I'll take care of it. And you stay out here. Now he's gone, okay? I'll sit with you until you go to sleep, okay?
Okay.
Mom, I think we should keep your coat rack outside so you have a place to keep your jackets when you come in.
Oh, okay, dear.
Okay? Okay. Good night.
Remember, patients experiencing hallucinations are having a difficult time interpreting their surroundings. Remain calm, reassuring, and try to identify what may be triggering the hallucinations. If hallucinations persist after trying to eliminate them, be sure to discuss this with their doctor. Here are a few tips on how to reduce hallucinations. Look around and try to see things through her eyes. What might cause her to misinterpret what she sees? Identify potential triggers such as open curtains, shadows, mirrors, or televisions left on. In the bedroom, use a nightlight to create a more peaceful sleeping environment. Always remember to remain calm and reassuring. Do not yell or scold her. Help her back into bed and reassure her that she is safe.
Before we go into the next example, this is a fairly common issue. This is not a true hallucination. True hallucinations can happen. They're more likely with other types of dementia than with Alzheimer's, but that would be like if she is seeing a man, just seeing a man, picturing a man clearly that isn't there, versus misinterpreting kind of what's going on. This is what are called pseudo hallucinations, and this will happen a lot of the time with, again, just misinterpreting things that actually are there. So shadows, they mentioned the TV. There can be kind of a blurring of reality between what did I watch on TV and what's happening in real life. Is that person actually in the house? With TVs that are off, mirrors, windows where there's a reflection of maybe themselves or someone else that's in the room, and it looks like to them there's a person outside the window that's looking in, or that person in the mirror is another person in the room. Sometimes even, portraits that are on the wall. I'm misinterpreting those, three people in the portrait as three people who are in the room with me right now. So this is fairly common. A lot of the time, those can be, just like this video, those can be stopped by just removing those things, covering things up, taking them off the wall, close the curtains, cover the mirror, take the mirror down. Once you eliminate those things that are being misinterpreted, most of the time, those pseudo hallucinations will stop with that.
Grandma hates taking her medicine, even after I tell her what it's for. She asks 10 different times why she's taking it. What should I do? Time to take your medicine, Grandma.
I don't need to take medicine. Who said I have to take that medicine? For what?
What are you talking about, Grandma? You have high blood pressure and diabetes. Dr. Brown said if you don't take your medicine, you're going to get sick.
I don't need pills.
Why do we have to do this every day? Just take your pills. I give up.
All right. So what is the specific behavior that's happening here? Again, you can put it in the chat or you can unmute and say something if you want. Yeah. All right. I'll go into my little pre-filled brainstorming here, and you can add anything that you want in the chat or unmute. So identifying the behavior again as specifically, objectively as possible, what's happening. when is it happening, where is it happening, with whom. The grandma is refusing to take her pills. We don't know for sure what time of day this is. It appears from the light sometime, during the daytime. It's happening at home, happening with the granddaughter, as far as we can tell from this video. That's all we know. Possible causes, what are some meanings for the grandma, some feelings that might be behind this, doing some research here. Grandma asked, what do I need to take these for? So maybe grandma legitimately doesn't know why she needs to take the pills. Um, Sometimes maybe just that reminder, well, because you have high blood pressure and you need to take them, um, can do the trick, and they need to be reminded. If it is someone who is to the point where they are losing a lot of time, losing decades, and I do think that it is 1980 right now. 1980, I didn't have high blood pressure and I didn't have diabetes. So I legitimately, I'm a healthy 40-year-old in my head right now. Why would I need to take these medications? So it might legitimately be, I don't think that I need to take these. Um, Grandma senses the frustration from the granddaughter, maybe, feels disrespected, maybe. Two things that remain very much intact, even when there are trouble verbally communicating, understanding what other people are saying. Nonverbal communication and emotions remain very much intact, even further into the progression of Alzheimer's. So I am going to sense if you're, frustrated with me, if I think you're being snippy, if I don't think that you're treating me with the proper respect, I am still probably going to sense that. The granddaughter was pretty clearly agitated, frustrated with this. Was another thing. Standing over her and telling her, kind of what you need to do. You need to do this. I am standing over you, kind of an intimidation feeling. There might be some intimidation there. Grandma might be distrustful. Sometimes there can be some suspiciousness that can happen with dementia. So maybe I don't know, I think you're trying to get me to take something, you're trying to poison me. There might be some distrust there. The relationship dynamic. You're the kid, even if I recognize that you're the granddaughter, a lot of times our kids, our grandkids, and our eyes are still 10 years old. I'm not going to listen to what you say, why am I gonna do what you're telling me? I'm the adult here. I'm the one in charge. You're the kid. Grandma might not like taking the pills because of some practical reason. Maybe the pills are too big. They taste bad. They upset her stomach. Some, legitimate reasons why I just don't, every time I take these pills, I don't feel good afterward, so I don't want to take them. Adjusting what can be done. Again, trying as much as possible to be calm and patient. Easier said than done. I know, especially if this is something that you're dealing with every single day. Um, Finding someone that grandma wants to please. Who would she like to make happy? Maybe it's the doctor. Maybe it is, granddaughter is the one there, 99% of the time taking care of grandma, but maybe grandson is her favorite, and that he's always been the golden child. And maybe if grandson asks her to take these pills, it might suddenly be like, oh, okay, let me do this. See if there's someone that she might want to make happy with this. Sometimes just trying a different time of day. And it might be an hour later, it might be a couple hours later. Continuing to push right now is just going to kind of lead to a battle of the wills at that point. And different people have different energy flows, different moods throughout the day. And if you're not a morning person and I'm telling you to do something first thing in the morning, I'm a lot less likely to be cooperative than if you kind of tell me later in the day when I'm, a little bit more alert, a little bit better mood. Offering some incentives, bribery sometimes, hey, take this so that we can go get an ice cream. Take this so that we can, because we need to leave to go, for a walk to take the dog out. Whether it's, a bribe or it's just kind of, hey, do this because we're going to do something else fun afterward. We need to get started on this next thing. So it's not necessarily the focus that becomes a fight. You can try explaining the need. Oh, it's because you have, high blood pressure. You just need to take these. Some people will, that will be fine. Calling the helpline, getting some suggestions. Again, that therapeutic fibbing, sometimes you can use that to your advantage. Talking to a pharmacist, especially if there are maybe physical reasons. Is this something that I could get in a liquid form? Is this something that I can break up and put in food? So we'll look at the recommended response here.
Refusal to take medication is a common manifestation of dementia. It can be very frustrating for the family, particularly as this has to be done every day. Stay calm and be patient, keeping in mind that these medications help your loved one stay healthy.
Time to take your medicine, Grandma.
I don't need to take medicine. Who said I have to take medicine? For what?
Remember, Dr. Brown said you have to take medicine for your blood pressure and your diabetes. He even wrote a note. My patient, Aura Jackson, that's you, needs to take her blood pressure and diabetes medicine every day. So let's take your medicine for Dr. Brown.
Okay, I'll take it today, but maybe not tomorrow, only because Dr. Brown said it's a good idea.
Okay. Oh, I have an idea. Let's take the dogs outside for a walk. It's a beautiful day.
Do not allow your annoyance or frustration to become part of the problem. Your loved one may pick up on your emotions and become annoyed with herself or you. Here are a few tips on how to improve the situation. Pick a doctor or an individual that she wants to please and tell her that this person advises her to take these medications. If swallowing pills is the issue, check with your pharmacy to see if the medications are available in liquid form. If not, consider crushing pills into applesauce or pudding to make them more palatable. Give pills one at a time with water. Sit next to your loved one when you try to offer them medications instead of over her. If she continues to refuse, allow her to calm down for several minutes, then try again. Remember to be patient, as this process may take several attempts. In regards to specific medications, prioritize the most important medications to be taken first.
All right. So with that kind of frustration that can happen on both sides, I wanted to go through a few golden rules of do's and don'ts. With frustration and arguing, we're going to try and avoid arguments. We're not going to try and over justify and reason with them, because the reasoning, the logic is being affected. It's not going to be fruitful. Fine, you're right. We want to try and again join their reality versus trying to reorient them to our reality. Not reminding them, you forgot, you forgot. Trying not to take it personally. This is kind of what I like to demonstrate sometimes, again, with their reality is just as real to them as our reality. So if, describe the person with the tree. If in their mind is the picture on the left and in your mind is the picture on the right, and they are not going to convince you that your picture on the right is a little boy who's picking apples, because in your mind this is a woman putting a star on a Christmas tree. you are not going to convince each other. Neither of you is going to change the mind of the other. Arguing is not going to be productive. And keeping in mind that you're not arguing with their logical mind, you're arguing with dementia, and you're not going to win that argument. Some do's: try to find out, the underlying reason of what's bothering them, providing comfort, responding to feelings versus statements that they're making. What are the underlying feelings that need to be addressed? Trying to address their concerns, staying patient and calm as much as possible. Let it go. You can come back later if you want. There are tip sheets that with idea. If you're interested, if you want to put your email in the chat, I can send out tip sheets afterward for all of these common behavioral issues. And the last thing I kind of want to look at is just thinking about when you are getting overwhelmed, when you are getting frustrated, what are things that you can do? Do you have good things that you're doing now that are helpful? Do you kind of need some ideas? I have a few little ideas here, and I'm a big Michael Jackson fan, so I thought of the moonwalk when I was thinking of this, but kind of visualizing this. You don't necessarily need to stay in that moment in the room. If there is rising tension, if you're getting frustrated, if that person is safe, you can just kind of moonwalk out of that room. You don't need to stay in that situation right now. You can take a few minutes, leave the room for a few minutes as long as they're safe, kind of press the reset button, try again later. You can try taking a few deep breaths. You can try that box breathing that I mentioned. Um, Look at some, try and laugh, find something funny, comics, funny cat videos on YouTube, whatever it is. If you can step outside, maybe get some sunlight, get some fresh air. Phone a friend, calling a friend to talk to them, to kind of maybe get a boost, maybe to vent, maybe calling a helpline, asking questions, letting them know what's going on. The boots are made for walking, sometimes just walk out, take a walk, kind of regroup, take a few minutes to yourself. Some community resources. If you're in Pima County, Pima Council on Aging is available. If you're outside of Pima County, every area in the U.S. has an area agency on aging. That can be a good place to start. Alzheimer's Association has that helpline that I mentioned. If you do want to put your email in the chat, I can send the tip lines, and I can send copies of these so that the links will be clickable and you'll have those numbers. AARP on their website has a page with resources for caregivers and their families, and a couple events and activities that you might be interested in if you're caregiving. Memory cafes are basically social opportunities for people who are living with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia and their loved ones to kind of get together, make connections, have some good experiences together. There are support groups for caregivers. There are online support groups for people living with dementia as well. There are, adult daycare programs, ongoing programs that for physical activity, for cognitive activity to kind of keep them engaged as much as possible. And I'm getting to time right now, so I'll open it up to anyone that has any questions. You can unmute or put the questions in the chat. If you do want a copy of the slides, caregiver tips, the resources, you can again put your email in the chat. If you have any questions, you can unmute or put those in the chat. I believe so. Angela, how would they get a copy of the recording, or how would they access that?
Yes, I can send the recording out, and Nicole too, if you want to send me everything,
Perfect.
since they registered, I can just
Perfect.
send everything out with it.
Okay, great. Yeah, that works then. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say I used to be a caregiver for my dad and he had dementia, and I think like he had a lot of behaviors that came with it. So I think the breathing technique that you showed at the beginning, just going back to that, because it is very difficult, and it, sometimes I would feel like it's asking a lot. Like you love the person, but it's like it can be like he had a lot of behaviors.
Yeah.
So just, it is hard to stay calm sometimes. I do like the moonwalking out of the room.
Yeah.
But also just reminding myself to like breathe to calm myself down.
Hmm.
Because, it is difficult not to also get super frustrated myself as being the caregiver.
Yeah.
So
And respite and finding, any
mhm.
support services, because it isn't realistic and sustainable for a caregiver to be, 24/7 for years, caregiving and not burn out, not have their own health, mental, physical health be impacted. So yeah, get any resources, take care of yourself. Any other questions? If not, I'll hang out for a couple minutes. If not, thank you guys for coming, and I'll share everything with Angela, and then she can distribute it all together with the recording also.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Resources for early onset and how to navigate this stage. Um, The Alzheimer's Association website and helpline do have some specific information for early onset, and there are also support groups for that specifically. So that's a good one. As far as all of, PCOA resources, things like that, those would still be available to anyone at any age, any stage. But the Alzheimer's Association would be my first recommendation, and that'll be with the resources that I send, their website and their helpline. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm gonna sign off then, and Angela, I'll send you my stuff then to include in the follow-up email.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.